Imagine this: the person you trust the most, your closest friend, the one you've lifted up, defended, and placed in a position of power that almost equals your own. And then one day, that person doesn't just betray you, they try to take everything from you: your work, your legacy, maybe even your life. This is not a Hollywood script, this is history. And at the center of it stands Marcus Aurelius, the Philosopher-King, in the year 175 AD. While leading his legions on the freezing frontiers of the north, Marcus receives the kind of news that could shatter any man. His most loyal general, Avidius Cassius, has declared himself the new emperor of Rome. One act of treachery, and the empire teeters on the edge of a catastrophic civil war. Most men would have responded with rage. Most leaders would have demanded blood. But Marcus Aurelius was not most men. He was forged by Stoicism. And what he did next would not only shock Rome, it would become one of the most radical lessons in history about power, forgiveness, and unshakable inner strength. This is the Stoic Lighthouse, where ancient wisdom cuts through modern chaos. If you believe that real power begins within, then hit that like button, subscribe, and let's step into a story that will change the way you see betrayal forever. Because in this story, Marcus Aurelius won a war without swinging a sword. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why his response is still one of the most revolutionary displays of strength ever recorded. Number 1. The bond of trust. The general and the emperor. Before we can grasp the weight of Cassius's betrayal, we must first understand the depth of the trust Marcus Aurelius placed in him. Avidius Cassius was not just another general. He was the hand Marcus extended across the vast Roman Empire, a commander whose victories carved stability from chaos. Born in Syria, hardened by relentless campaigns, Cassius crushed rebellions in Egypt and led Rome to a triumphant conquest over the Parthians, enemies who once threatened the very heart of the empire. He was known for his iron discipline, his strategic brilliance, and, until that fateful moment, his unwavering loyalty. Marcus Aurelius, guided by the Stoic principle that trust must be earned through judgment, elevated Cassius to supreme command of the East. While Marcus waged brutal campaigns along the Danube, it was Cassius who held the empire's eastern provinces, Syria, Judea, Egypt, together. Their relationship was more than political. It was an alliance rooted in mutual respect and necessity. To Marcus, Cassius was not merely a subordinate. He was the pillar on which half of Rome rested. According to Seneca, before friendship, one must judge. After friendship, one must trust. Marcus judged well, or so it seemed. In Cassius, he saw a man whose ambition was matched by loyalty. He delegated power to him almost as if crowning a second emperor. And in doing so, Marcus practiced what modern leadership experts like former US Navy SEAL Jocko Willink now call extreme ownership. Trust was not a luxury, it was the lifeblood of command. Jocko Willink once said, "Trust is the currency of every team. Without it, nothing moves." Rome moved because Marcus trusted Cassius. The empire was vast, its borders stretched thin, and only by empowering men like Cassius could Marcus keep the heart of Rome beating. This was not a sentimental friendship. This was a bond forged in necessity, discipline, and shared purpose. But it is precisely here that betrayal cuts deepest, because when the one you trust most turns against you, it is not just a political rebellion, it is a violation of something sacred. It is the collapse of the very foundation you believed was unshakable. This is why Marcus's story is not just about a treacherous general. It is about what happens when your strongest ally becomes your greatest threat, and how one man, armed only with philosophy, stood against the storm without letting it consume him. Number 2. The reaction that stunned Rome, the Philosopher-King's response. When the news of Cassius's rebellion reached Marcus Aurelius, it must have felt like a thunderclap in a clear sky. One moment, He was leading his troops on the frigid northern frontier. The next, he was told that the man he trusted above all others had declared himself emperor. And worse, Cassius spread the lie that Marcus was dead. With a single treacherous move, Rome stood at the brink of civil war. Marcus's soldiers were outraged. Their loyalty to him was absolute. All they needed was one command, and they would have marched east, burning a path of vengeance until Cassius's head lay at their emperor's feet. But Marcus did something that no one expected. He didn't rage, he didn't scream, he didn't call for blood. Instead, he spoke words that stunned even his most hardened generals. The historian Cassius Dio recorded Marcus's response, a speech that should be studied not just by leaders, but by anyone who has ever been betrayed. Marcus addressed his army, and instead of anger, he expressed sorrow. Not sorrow for himself, sorrow for Cassius. And then he said something almost unimaginable. Marcus Aurelius said, "My only wish is that Cassius is not killed before I can meet him, for I want to forgive him with my own hand." This was not weakness, it was power. Because in that moment, Marcus applied one of Stoicism's most radical principles, the dichotomy of control. He could not change Cassius's betrayal, but he could control his own response, and by mastering himself, he became unshakable. Epictetus taught this same lesson. We are not disturbed by what happens, but by our judgment about what happens. Marcus refused to see Cassius as a monster. He saw him as a man blinded by ambition, a man who had mistaken power for happiness. In that, Marcus showed another Stoic concept, sympathia, the understanding that we are all connected, even to those who wrong us. According to William Burvine, this is where Stoicism becomes most practical, by reframing betrayal not as an attack to be avenged, but as a chance to display strength of character. And Marcus's response turned a moment of crisis into a living demonstration of Stoic virtue. While the world expected vengeance, Marcus chose mastery. While others saw an enemy, he saw a man lost to ignorance. His decision did not just shock Rome, it rewrote the very definition of power. Number 3, forgiveness as power, how the crisis was resolved. The rebellion of Avidius Cassius, bold as it began, collapsed faster than anyone could have predicted. Within just 3 months, his grand ambition crumbled. The Eastern legions, once loyal to him, learned that Marcus Aurelius was alive and marching with overwhelming force. Loyalty to Marcus, built on years of just and principled rule, proved stronger than Cassius's thirst for power. In a final desperate act, 2 of Cassius's own centurions betrayed him, striking him down and severing his head. They presented it to Marcus, expecting to be rewarded. This was how Roman politics had always worked: betray the traitor and earn favor from the emperor. But Marcus was not a conventional emperor. When they laid the head of his former friend before him, Marcus turned away. He refused to even look at it. And instead of triumph, his heart was heavy with grief. Marcus Aurelius said, "I have been robbed of my chance to forgive him." In those words, Marcus revealed something extraordinary. He did not see Cassius's death as justice. He saw it as a lost opportunity to display the highest form of strength, mercy. Marcus ordered Cassius's head to be buried with full honors. He then did something that stunned the Senate and forever marked his reign as one of wisdom rather than vengeance. He demanded every letter, every list of names that connected senators and officials to Cassius's conspiracy. And without reading a single one, he burned them. Seneca warned about this cycle of cruelty long before. Cruelty, once it has surpassed its limits, rarely stops. By burning those letters, Marcus ended the cycle. He would not poison his reign with fear. He would not turn Rome into a theater of blood. He understood something few leaders ever have. A kingdom ruled by terror is brittle, but a kingdom ruled by clemency is unbreakable. Ryan Holiday later reflected on this act with a truth that echoes through time. Real power is not the ability to crush your enemies. It is the discipline to master yourself and the wisdom to forgive. Marcus's mercy was not naive. It was calculated strength. By sparing the families of Cassius's supporters and refusing mass executions, he transformed potential enemies into loyal subjects. He turned fear into respect, and in doing so, he forged a legacy of leadership rooted not in brutality, but in unshakable principle. Marcus had won the greatest victory of all. He conquered himself. Number 4. The Inner Citadel. How Marcus Aurelius forged calm in chaos. At first glance, Marcus Aurelius's reaction to betrayal seems almost superhuman. How could a man faced with treachery from the person he trusted most respond not with fury, but with a desire to forgive? The answer is simple. This was no accident. Marcus had spent his entire life training for this moment. His strength came from what the Stoics called the inner citadel, a fortress of the mind, built brick by brick through discipline, philosophy, and relentless self-mastery. Marcus understood that the world outside his mind was unpredictable and brutal. But inside, that was his domain. In his private journal, later known as Meditations, Marcus constantly reminded himself of the principles that forged this inner fortress. One of those principles was sympathia, the belief that every person is part of one universal body. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Men exist for the sake of one another, teach them or bear with them." This perspective prevented him from dehumanizing Cassius. He did not see a monster, he saw a brother who had lost his way. This was the first wall of his inner citadel, compassion without illusion. The second wall was amor fati, the love of fate. Marcus didn't merely accept the betrayal, he embraced it as if it were chosen for him, because in Stoicism, every obstacle is fuel for virtue. Friedrich Nietzsche, deeply influenced by the Stoics, would later echo this idea. Nietzsche wrote, "My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not for all eternity." For Marcus, Cassius's rebellion was not a curse. It was the perfect test. It was the chance to prove that philosophy was more than words. It was action. And Marcus passed that test because his third wall, memento mori, the constant remembrance of death, kept him grounded. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." When you live with the knowledge that death is close, vengeance loses its grip, pettiness vanishes. What remains is clarity, and that clarity allowed Marcus to see beyond his own wounds and lead with wisdom instead of wrath. Even in modern times, this lesson has been rediscovered. Psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, who survived the horrors of a concentration camp, described it perfectly. Viktor Frankl said, "The last of human freedoms is to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." Marcus Aurelius had already chosen his attitude long before Cassius raised his banner of rebellion. He built his fortress in times of peace so that in times of chaos, nothing could break him. And now, 1,800 years later, his inner citadel still stands as a blueprint for anyone who has ever been betrayed, wounded, or tested. Number 5. The timeless blueprint against betrayal. 4 lessons for modern life. Marcus Aurelius's confrontation with betrayal is not just a historical tale. It is a survival guide for the human soul. In his response to Avidius Cassius, we find a blueprint for overcoming one of life's most universal wounds. These are not abstract philosophical concepts. They are weapons you can wield today. The first lesson, separate the act from the person. When we are betrayed, it is easy to reduce someone to their worst deed. He is a traitor. She is unforgivable. But Marcus Aurelius refused to see Cassius only through the lens of his betrayal. He condemned the act, but he did not condemn the man. Plato, echoing the teachings of Socrates, reminded us, The one who commits injustice is always more wretched than the one who suffers it. By understanding this, Marcus turned his anger into pity and his resentment into strength. For us, this means refusing to let someone else's vice corrupt our own character. The second lesson: forgiveness is for you, not them. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. It is not about restoring trust or absolving the offender. Marcus did not forgive Cassius to save him. He forgave to keep himself free from the poison of hatred. According to William Burvine, forgiveness is a kind of strategic selfishness. You forgive not because they deserve it, but because you refuse to pay the price of carrying the weight of anger. Forgiveness is not surrender. It is reclaiming your peace. The third lesson: use pain as fuel for virtue. Pain is inevitable. Betrayal hurts. But Marcus turned that pain into an exercise in justice, temperance, and wisdom. In our lives, betrayal can become the training ground for strength, whether by setting new boundaries, sharpening our judgment, or deepening our empathy for others who suffer. Epictetus taught, "Every difficulty in life is an opportunity to practice a virtue." When we see betrayal as training rather than tragedy, it loses its power to destroy us. The fourth and final lesson: build your inner citadel before the storm. Marcus's calm in the face of treachery was not born in the moment of crisis. It was forged long before, in his daily practice of philosophy, self-discipline, and reflection. Epictetus warned, "You cannot build a ship when the storm has already come." Likewise, we cannot expect to face betrayal with strength if we wait until it strikes to prepare. The time to build our inner citadel is now, through daily reflection, the study of wisdom, and the discipline of mastering our minds. These 4 lessons are not merely ideas, they are shields. And if you carry them, nothing, not even the deepest betrayal, can shatter your peace. The story of Marcus Aurelius and Avidius Cassius is not just history, it is a mirror, a reminder that even in the face of betrayal, we have a choice: to be consumed by anger or to transform our pain into strength. Marcus chose the path of wisdom. He showed us that real power is not measured by how many enemies you crush, but by how unshakable you remain when the world tries to break you. We walked through his journey, from trust to treachery, from the edge of war to the calm mastery of forgiveness. We saw how Marcus turned a moment of crisis into a lesson in leadership, discipline, and virtue. And most importantly, we discovered a blueprint, a way to confront our own betrayals without losing ourselves. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "The best revenge is to be unlike your enemy." Take these words with you. Build your inner citadel before the storm. Practice forgiveness not as a gift to others, but as a weapon to protect your own peace. And remember, your pain does not have to define you, it can refine you. Now I want to hear from you. Which lesson from Marcus Aurelius speaks to you the most? Forgiveness, calm under attack, or the discipline to prepare before life storms? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice may be the spark someone else needs. If this video resonated with you, like it, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribe to the Stoic Lighthouse. Together, we will keep turning ancient wisdom into practical power for the modern world. And stay with us, because in our next video, we will uncover the story of a modern billionaire who secretly uses the teachings of Seneca to navigate the ruthless world of business and win without losing his soul. You will not want to miss it. Marcus Aurelius left us a map. All that's left is for you to walk the path. See you in the next video.